Hey, good evening, and welcome back to Everyday Talk 24/7. It's Friday, June 21st, the first full day of summer, or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, winter. Question for tonight. I'm asking you some questions I think are important for us to consider. Are the judgments that you make, are they hypocritical? Are they hypocrisy? Or are they a righteous judgment? A good judgment? See, there's a misunderstanding that we're not supposed to judge. And that's only if we're judging by our standards. But we're supposed to use discernment. We're supposed to make righteous judgments. But Jesus gives us some help, obviously clear help. In John's Gospel, the Pharisees are challenging him because he healed on the Sabbath. Now, they've totally misunderstood what the Sabbath is about, but they're saying you can't do that. You can't do work on the Sabbath. So Jesus challenges them and said, hey guys, look, you circumcise, if the Sabbath, if the eighth day falls on a Sabbath, you circumcise. Yet you condemn me for healing the whole person on the Sabbath. So then in John 7:24, he says this, stop judging according to outward appearance, according to what you think is right. Rather, judge according to righteous judgment. In other words, make a righteous judgment. They were trying to differentiate between circumcision and healing. The point was, they ignored what the law was all about and what it was teaching. They tried to justify themselves. And Jesus is telling them, remember, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is saying, so impacted the people that they realized he taught with one who had authority, not like the scribes and the Pharisees and the righteous religious elitists. Well, here's a classic example of that. Jesus spoke with authority. They spoke according to tradition and woodenness. So in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus clears this up for us about the kind of judgments to make. At the beginning of chapter 7, we read this. Do not judge so that you will not be judged. This is where we take something out of context. I've done another video on this, but I'm just going to zero on this tonight. Do not judge so that you'll be not judged. So the idea is, well, you can't judge. You can't make any assessment at all. That's judgmental. It's not what Jesus is saying. Remember, he told the Pharisees, make a righteous judgment. For with the judgment that you judge, you will be judged. And with the measure you measure, it will be measured to you. See, if you're applying your own standard, if I'm applying my own standard, we're in trouble. And then Jesus gives us unbelievably practical, powerful example. And why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Let's get a picture of what he's saying here. How can you look at the speck, this little tiny piece of sawdust that would fit right on the tip of my little finger right here? He says, well, why do you look at that speck that is in your brother's eye, but ignore the log that is in your eye? And the thumbnail tonight is a log. You see that on the screen now, this big log. So he's saying, this little tiny speck, or this log. You can see the speck, but you can't see the massive piece of lumber in your own eye. That's what he's highlighting here. And if you can't see it, guess what? The person you're trying to help, they can see it very clearly. And they're running for the hills to keep from being smacked by this log. So then he says, how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, and behold, the log, and not deal with the log in your own eye? You see that? Let me take the speck out of your eye. And yet there's this log in your own. How can you say that? Then in verse 5 of chapter 7, you hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. See, the goal is to help the brother get rid of the speck, but not with this massive log sitting in your eye. Not with this log of hypocrisy, where you are so self-righteous that you can't see your own sins. And our sins are the log that Jesus is talking about. And the one we want to help, they see those logs, they see those sins. And if we ignore them, they're not going to want any part of us. So he says, take the log out of your eye. Take that massive log and get rid of it. So the key here is humility. To make a righteous, gracious judgment, to exercise discernment, we have to have humility. And if I'm very much aware of taking the logs, the sins out of my life, the things that I'm bumping into other people with, the things I'm causing offense to other people, if I get rid of those things, then I'm building a trust relationship where someone says, wait a minute, he has enough sense to realize what he's doing wrong. Maybe he can help me. You see the beauty of this? See, let those that you love, let them see that you're about getting rid of the logs first. Don't concentrate on the specks, the sawdust specks in their eye. Concentrate on getting rid of your logs. You know what that does? That provides an attitude of trust and safety. If Jay's that diligent about getting rid of his own junk, maybe he can help me. If he views his problems as giant logs and my problem a speck, maybe he really can help me. See, this is about humility. We are too quick to rush to judgment, to come in and, let me get rid of that speck. While you're doing that, this massive log is there and you're smashing the other person to pieces. No wonder they don't want to talk to you or to me. If we want to be a safe place, an encouraging place, hey Echo, if you want to be a person who's being safe and encouraging, then get rid of the log. Get that log out of your eye. Be a person that's safe. Remove the things, the obvious things that are in your eye, so that the person you want to help will welcome you and ask you to help them get rid of their specks. Such a powerful message here. So yes, we're to make a righteous judgment, not a selfish judgment, not based upon my view of appearances, but one that I'm driven by humility, so I can help my brother and not lord it over him. And that's the thought for this night. Thanks so much for being here. Love your thoughts, feedback, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow. You have a great night.